All right. So this location is actually cool because this is the first video that I put on this channel. Was basically this exact shot. It was a little tweaked, but if you know me or any of the content that I make, my name is Evan Strong, and I make videos geared mostly around shoelaces and clothing, and the discrepancies within the lacing of our shoes or the tying uneven, and the things within our clothing, seams, tags, oversized, different weights here and there, front to back and left to right, that pull our bodies out of their natural position, out of their natural center line, out of their natural alignment. They don't allow us to have our natural function and balance as we do. Stemming at the shoelaces, tying them with my technique that I've shown many times over to the outside. So it's exactly the opposite on each side of the feet because you have two sides of your body. Tying them over toward the inside, toward the center line to allow for internal rotation. So, prerequisite to anything I ever talk about, lace and tie your shoes proper with the technique that I show. It took me quite a while to come up with, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to be honest. Cut the tags out of everything, including the tongues of your shoes, all the way up through every item of your clothing. Those affect your body greatly. They are man-made material, usually 100% polyester, which is oil, plastic, okay? So this video is not necessarily going to be focusing on modifications or fit within clothing, as a lot of my videos are. What I'm going to talk about is sitting. And I've mentioned quite often that I stand a lot more than I sit. I'm wearing jeans right now because I came over here planning to make a video on jeans. And yeah, it's like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, probably around there here in Utah. But regardless of the clothes that you're wearing, or let's say, as I've said before, let's say you're wearing no clothing out of modesty, but just to allow your body to just do what it would do, sitting in this kind of 90-degree position, this is similar to the height of a lot of chairs, at least for some people too, because I'm 6'2", so I'm a lot taller than, you know, most people, just statistically. But if you're sitting in a seat that's like a 90 degree at the ankle, 90 degree at the knees, 90 degree at the hips, you're actually going to be deactivating your core just by sitting. And I've mentioned so often that internal rotation is a healthy rounding of the spine, centered, even, and active. There's a necessary healthy rounding that the spine needs to be in a functional position, just a normal, natural position that the body was designed to work in. So if you are sitting, I understand this isn't quite a chair, but let's say I'm sitting in a chair, my heels aren't allowed to come behind my knees. Gravity pulls us directly straight toward the center of our globe, of our Earth. So almost all of my weight is a femur distance. The femur is this bone in your upper leg. The majority of all of my weight is a femur distance from where my feet are going to be placed on the ground. Now again, this isn't a chair. My feet aren't even on the ground right now, but in any chair where your heels can't come behind you, your only connection with the ground that's going to get you off of that chair when you stand up is clear out there. And most all your weight is clear back here. I mean, that's that far distance behind what's going to try to push you like up, off, out of the chair, which is your feet. So like I'm kind of struggling right now to stay in an active position. I'm actually dropping a little bit with my glutes into this little planter bed, but if this was like flat, it causes you to sit like this. Most chairs that's a similar height to like a 90-degree bend at the knee, right? Just like a square, let's say, at the knee, look at my low back. You see how it comes in, it sways a lot in my lumbar spine, which is the low back. Now, anytime your lower back is swaying, your core is deactivated. Your core is your internal rotation. If I'm in this position, I'm very, very active, and I've shown that many times to where if you've seen anything from me, the misconception of a rounding of the shoulders or rounding of the back is a misconception. It's a very, very healthy position if it's centered, stemming from the shoelacing even and tying even. So, because the internal rotation toward the center, right? Your nose and your sternum and your spine, center, tucked in. So, in a position where you're sitting on a chair with your feet this far in front of you, it doesn't matter your capability level or your strength or anything, you're not going to be able to push yourself up because your body weight is being pulled down here and your anchor point to the earth is out here. So you can be the strongest person on the face of the planet at that time, and you'll just never be able to stand up even if my feet were completely on the ground from this position, because your weight is behind what you're trying to stand from. So anything you're doing with your feet is actually pushing you farther backward. Because if you're pushing into the ground, if you're pulling with your hamstrings, even pulling with your hamstrings, all you're gonna do is sway your low back more. You can't get in front of this when the weight is here. So when we sit, I've talked about how there's a few positions that are just natural for the, I guess it's good to be clear on how I just cut off that easy after I said that it couldn't happen. This is high enough to where I just kind of like put my body weight down. But if I were actually having my feet on the ground and I was sitting in a normal chair, there's no way. Like, look at this visual. Let's say there's a chair here. I mean, you can't, unless you have a heel on your shoes, still then you can't sit in, like, if you think about a wall sit, if you've been in any kind of sports, anything, and have you like sit against the wall as if you're sitting in a chair at this 90-degree like square angle with the knees, you can't do that without something behind you. Like, you'll just fall. No matter how strong you are, it's where gravity is actually pulling you. So in order to sit, there's a bee in my ear. Golly, man. I've been stung by 5 bees in the past like 11, 12-ish days. Not so fun. So in order to sit in any kind of way where you can keep your core active, internal on the arches of your feet, in an activated position to where you just have natural strength, you would have to have your feet pretty well underneath you, right? So if you're sitting, a bench is good where there's nothing underneath to where your heels can go back. If I'm sitting here, my heels can't go back. See, now I'm actually resting on this, like this is as if I were actually sitting without dropping into the flower bed, planter bed thing. My back is so, do you see the position I'm in? I couldn't be in another position without holding my feet out like this. This is the only way that I'd be able to be activated in a natural working position. Once my feet get here, my back wants to do unnatural things and my shoulders follow. So if you're going to be sitting at all, you have to have your feet behind you. They have to be able to tuck back to activate your core, right? See that difference? So, yes, most all couches or recliners, a lot of seats today in 2024 don't allow the human body to even work the way it works. And I've mentioned so often, we don't get to decide how our body works. I can't decide how mine works, and he and she can't decide how theirs work. The body has one function, as in each joint does its one thing. The shoulder has multiple things it can do, but it only does those things in the ways that it does those things. Same with the hips and the ankle. Anything that has multiple movements, it only can do those in the way that it can do those. And this, sitting like this, just doesn't allow that to happen. So, yeah, really, when it comes to a natural functioning body, not like you've worked up to it, you're strong, you've done exercises. I just mean the way that our bodies naturally are designed to work. When it comes to that, really standing or sitting in a low squat, I am in jeans, which this is, a little bit difficult to do in jeans because they bind up on your knees. Or sitting on the ground, or actually laying on the ground. Those are pretty much the only just about natural, they really are the only natural positions that a human being, because of our body's actual structural design, can be in while still working the way that they're designed to work. So, yeah, I don't know what to even say about chairs. At schools, at least they have the ability to let you tuck your heels behind you in the desk. That's good because, again, like, your heels are here, you're deactivated, you tuck them and you activate. Your hamstrings activates your glutes and your core and everything. If you could see my feet right now, I'm gonna step up here for a second, because when I was doing that, my feet really go active when I come to my core. Outsides of my feet, on the arches, internal, everything in the posterior chain is doing its job, and my body can just work. And then it's just in its normal position. So, yeah. Seats, because a lot of people spend time on the couch or in a recliner. Any chair that just doesn't allow your heels to come back, you're gonna have this chronic deactivation into external rotation. You have to get internal and active just to even feel like you can function or like you can breathe, just normal human function. So, yeah. Like I said, I've mentioned so often that I rarely ever sit down. Because unless I'm sitting on something that's really allowing me to just be in a natural position, it's so much more uncomfortable when your body's actually working the way it's designed to sit than it is to stand. So, yeah. Because people will talk about lumbar support, but now you're in a position like this. You're forcing your core to be deactivated. See that? Your core wants to tuck, right? And that's how you can be really just activated within all the muscles the way they're designed to. And when you put something behind you, pushes your feet out, collapses your arches, puts all this strength, quote unquote, the muscle activation in the anterior part of your body, like your quads, your core is totally deactivated, your shoulders are at external rotation, your neck has tension, and you're like this. You have to get this core in, and now you're in a position where you can just work. So, yeah. Yeah. And there's certain things, if you drive a vehicle at all, you almost have to sit that way. And I drive, right? So I experienced that. Being in a car is very uncomfortable. Regardless of how tall or short you are, the position, because your feet are out to touch the pedals, right? whether you're using the clutch over here with your left foot or the gas and brake, and then it's and that's a whole nother video. But yeah, so sitting, the takeaway from this, rather than just the information, in addition to that, if you are sitting, if you have a job where you sit quite often, or if you're at home and you just are watching TV, whatever you're doing, if you're sitting down, tweak your chair. If you're sitting on something that doesn't allow your heels to go back, see if you can find something that does. Try to get just stacked center of gravity, right? Because if your body's pulling down, just keep your feet underneath it. Gravity wise, what I mean is when gravity's pulling you directly toward the center of the earth, right? Try to keep your foundation, which is what the shoelacing and tying is about, keeping that foundation just natural. Keep it as the foundation, not as like some support out there that can't support when you're back here. So yeah, tags have to be out of your clothing, or else you're gonna feel like that's where you need to be, because they're causing a very, very unnatural gap there anyway. So that's why I preface videos with that as a prerequisite, because it is just for a natural functioning body. So it's the 30th of August 2024. My name is Evan Strong. Stick around if you want more content like this. I post things as and when needed. But yeah, so many people spend a lot of their life sitting, and it's not a judgment out of you should be exercising, but if you're causing your body to be in a deactivated position, then that's one thing. You're gonna feel like you need to exercise, and you don't. I've talked about how exercise isn't necessary. We just need to be in a natural functioning position. So allow those heels to come back, allow that core to activate, do the prerequisites I mentioned at the beginning, and